Hey guys, welcome to BALLBUSTERS Live. Got a great show lined up for you today. If you'd like to support this channel, there are PayPal and Patreon links in the info box below. And we got a ripe old panel of BALLBUSTERS. How's it going out there, ladies and gentlemen?
Hello, welcome to BALLBUSTERS.
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Good evening.
And good evening, everyone.
Outstanding. Shout out to Betty, who couldn't make it today, but you're in our thoughts. You come bouncing in here next week, all right?
Golfing.
Or what?
You genuinely can't understand me now, for really.
Sounded like
she golfing? I should try to enunciate better.
It sounded like you said dolphin.
She a dolphin, John?
Golfing.
She's midget golfing now.
Not at this hour.
We're on the floodlights, are we? Late night midget golf.
All right, that's it. Hope you guys have a good day.
Preparing to get dizzy from lots of Coriolis talk.
Yeah, it's a Coriolis day. Gonna have to do it.
Out of the blue? Why would you cover Coriolis so all of a sudden?
It felt like the right time.
There's a certain guy named Dan. Thank for that, right?
Who?
Dan.
Oh, sci-fi scam. Yeah, I remember.
Nope. There's no drift Dan. Not this guy.
Actually, Kiri, could I just for a second say what you just say? Thank you, Dan.
I didn't even hear that.
Oh my God. Oh.
Speak up, sir.
I'd just like to say thank you, Dan. Can't hear that.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for disproving Earthspin.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. No drift.
It's hard for me. It's hard for me to understand how somebody, and he's not the only one. Sci-fi scam, you're not the only one. How you can train wreck and dumpster fire your own argument without us having to say anything. It's absolutely astonishing to me. You guys don't realize it. I find it hilarious.
It's beautiful.
Because if you don't got drift, you don't got a whiff. I just made that up, man.
They have no oversight over the consequences of their own actions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very simple.
Yeah. No drift. And our reference frames are ruined.
I've taken credit for that, so I've said it's my eloquent description of their position that they hear and think, well, obviously the contrapositive is what I've got to, approach this with. In other words, debunk what I'm describing. When I'm describing Earth should turn underneath, it's your second reference frame. They're hearing you saying Earth should turn underneath. Well, that's totally understandable. But what I mean by that is your claim is Earth turns underneath. It doesn't. We don't see drift. That doesn't mean that you've got to come along and show that we shouldn't have drift when it's your claim.
But it moves in lockstep with
And
the
then
Earth.
to tell us that the thing that's supposed to be their claim has been ruined. But what do you mean, Dan?
He still believes in it.
Yes, in the chat he'll say he believes in it, but then he'll tell us it's ruined. Seems slightly confused, Dan.
It's pinnacle of Baltar doublespeak. They don't even know what they're saying. He believes in what?
He believes that his strawman conception of what his view on the strawman conception that our side is supposed to be giving to him. See, that is what he was aiming at.
Yeah, but
The quote was,
go ahead.
the quote is, "Of course I believe the drift, the rumpus. Not my fault."
So he believes in drift, but what did he send you?
A
Yeah,
quote
but I think
debunking claims.
Say again?
Was it the rest of that quote? Not my fault. They don't understand the video. Something like that. If I'm correct.
It's going to be difficult to understand how you can believe in something which is drift when the claim of drift requires 2 reference frames, and demonstration of a man not drifting came with a quote from Dan that suggested that reference frames were ruined. I don't really understand how he can believe in something that's got ruined reference frames, but he says he does.
I'm not getting it. So he believes in
Well-
drift, and he sends you something that shows no drift.
I think he believes in a different kind of drift. I think he's trying to reify the this contortion between the lockstep movement of the atmosphere with the Earth supposedly, and some objects still deviating. I think he was trying to reify that into a different understanding of Coriolis. So our conception, he thought, was ruin of what we say the reference frame should be, and then he was trying to move the argument like that, but misunderstanding that he was basically completely misunderstanding the natural consequences of things in the process.
I have a serious question. Is there anything dumber that you heard? And I know this is, you got a reservoir to choose from. Is there anything dumber than the atmosphere spins in lockstep with the Earth?
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
One more thing, Doug. Oh, no, you go first, Darwin.
Right. So no, I can look. Let's just look at it from this vantage point. If the Earth was a ball and there was gas and there was a container around that ball, also spherical shaped, then sure, the gas would eventually start to move in lockstep with the Earth if
No
that
way.
Earth was rotating.
No way.
Yeah. But
No.
the thing is, that's not their model.
No.
See? No, but this is the way they reify it within their thinking.
No.
They're very sloppy with
No.
that. This is how it works. This is how I thought of it originally.
Well, that's incorrect. Even if it was a closed system, the gas is still not going to spin with the Earth. Not going to happen. Why?
Gas isn't bonded.
Exactly.
But it is subjected to, I don't know, like pushing effects and all that.
Oh, can you
If
Yeah.
something on a physical object is pushing it, then it will be displaced. It will increase momentum, as it were.
No way is it going to spin in lockstep with the Earth. There's no way. Physically impossible.
what you supposing there on? It's kind of like a spinning top effect, isn't it? Like that, and it whips it like a whipping top, where you whip the top and it moves. But that's all physical. You're talking here is if there was a presupposed rotation, a single molecular interaction. Now that interaction would send that off at a skewy vector, different to it just hitting a plane surface. That one then vector, all it does is affect the next path mechanism of its next interaction. It doesn't flurry the atmosphere plane up into a constantly circulating. There's no fan beating it. There's only just individual actions.
Okay, I understand the problem, but what if the bubble container around the spherical Earth was also rotating?
Still wouldn't.
You will have different speeds at different altitudes. It will create like swirling tornadoes at every iteration of layers. total chaos.
Yeah.
Just
So there
wait.
could never be a gaseous synchronous movement
No.
within a centrifuge situation.
Never in that
Never,
situation.
never.
Nope.
Wow. So sorry to ask to go this far, but do you have actual empirical proof for this? Has this been demonstrated?
Empirical, no, it's simple logic. Once you understand that there are no intermolecular bonds with the gases, right? The gases can't bond with themselves. How can they bond with any surface? They can't. It's impossible.
Look, what I'm asking is, like, technically a circular tube could be made, a closed tube with gas in it, and then I don't know, motion detectors within those tubes, and then the whole thing would be spun up like
No
a
way.
massive centrifuge. And
Or
they
we're
could be
trying to remember.
registered whether the gas continuously keeps on moving because of this, or whether it will eventually starts to move in lockstep. I'm curious to these kind of things.
Well done, QE.
Yeah,
I think I sense from Chocolate that he's about to say what I was thinking. Go ahead, Chocolate.
Well, it's, just to mention what Arwen just said, you remember QE's question was lockstep. Even if some of the gas is moving around, you think the entire atmosphere will move with the Earth in lockstep? You think that's
Only
possible?
under the presupposition it is bubble contained,
Oh,
very
there we go.
specifically. Otherwise, it
So
could never
sci-fi
work,
it.
of course.
Okay, that wasn't what I was going to say at all. Okay,
Yeah.
as much as this is fascinating folly, the claim on the opponent's side of this argument, that would be the globe Earth claim, is that they're not in lockstep, that one turns under the other. And if you're on that turning reference frame, that would be the claim that Earth is that turning reference frame, then you observe things drifting. It's got a very set amount as well, 15 degrees an hour. Well, that's drift as you turn underneath. Not any of what was being discussed currently. That's not drift. That's what our opponents assert, regardless of his folly.
Correct. I think, though, you're overlooking a little bit more dramatic natural consequence. They also claim an open system. So there's not a lot of air to move in lockstep with anything, really. So it's poof,
How is there air?
exactly.
We said it both at the same time. Exactly. Yeah. Well, it depends on who you talk to, because some people say it's an open and closed system open closed system. That's what it was. I seen that this morning. Shout out, Sly. I just seen that.
You
Yeah.
just seen that?
Yeah, it's a closed system that's open. Yep. Good
on,
job,
Q.
Sly.
Come on, QE. It's approximately closed.
Say again.
It's approximately closed.
Oh, it's approximately closed. That's correct. Yeah. Yeah,
Is it open closed by osmosis?
no. It to me, I can't think now. Dog bones or clocks fly, is right up there. But to me, the atmosphere spins with the Earth is really one of the dumbest things I think I ever heard, and could be disproved by an incoherent first grader. Just walk outside.
The atmos what?
Yeah, that's true. You caught me. Yeah, thanks, Chocolate. I get into this. I get into the same rut. Yeah, atmosphere is a contradiction in terms. Atmo meaning air. Air is a gas. Sphere is a shape. Gases have no inherent shape. So that's a contradiction in terms. You see, but they say it over and over and over again. You've heard it all your life. It's hard to get out of that. I don't want to say, is it indoctrination? Maybe, but it's up on a higher
it's
level.
word magic. They
Now,
social
excuse me,
engineered the
you'll-
way the words work. You know,
Yeah.
the most natural thing to call it would be the airplane. But yeah, that word is taken. Guess what? By an industry.
Nathan, didn't we have this discussion on one of the debates and agreed to stick with just air? But I fumbled early with, I went with Atmo plane. Even that, I think, agreed to go with air, because that's what it is.
Hey, shout out
What-
to
what?
hold on one second. Shout out to James Richard for Superchat. Arwen, he had a message for you. Arwen, that doesn't match reality anyways. Sorry about that. I just seen it.
What?
Yeah,
Which
don't worry
part?
about it. It'll take us
Which
back.
part? The bubble?
Yeah,
I know.
take us
but
back there.
it's got to work somehow, you know. I'm not just going to suspend the disbelief on gas pressure expansion and all that just to...
Sure.
No.
Sure.
Can I just intervene at this point to say
Yes,
that this
please.
is a critical part of the magic trick? So when you get into arguing about how if you throw a ball on a train, it moves with the air that's moving with the train and doesn't massively drift because it's a closed system, and then you argue about whether or not Earth is an open or closed system, missing the point, which is to say what you're arguing about in that scenario is a lack of drift. You've got to understand that as soon as you say Earth and atmosphere travel as one, regardless of your capabilities of debunking that, you're saying, oh, no drift then.
Yeah, you get the drift? No drift.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
this
Something
preposterous.
to
Go ahead.
Armin's question.
Go ahead.
What Armin was asking earlier, just to point out, I think in the perfect condition, which Armin I think was referring to, I think the maximum we can achieve is the same tangential your speed, tangential speed at the lower layers, atmosphere, quote unquote, would be the same as the upper layer of atmosphere, which will create a difference. So they will never sort of rotate at the same radial speed. You know what I'm saying? That's in the perfect condition.
Oh, that can't happen.
That's where it shows isn't a first law violation there,
Yeah,
John, right?
exactly.
Because even if you were to presuppose that it could whip up the atmosphere to sustain an equivalent speed, that of the primary layer, and so you give them that, fair enough. And the next layer above it, to maintain the same rotational angular speed, got to actually increase its rotational speed. Would require the lower layer to transpose more energy and make the upper layer go faster. So
You remember when I found the citation that said that called that super rotation?
No.
You remember that?
Woohoo!
rotation.
Hold on a second. Let's give it them. So let's say that you've got this first law of thermodynamics violation occurring, and we say, okay, we take that as read. What you've actually then got is a conclusive debunking of 15 degrees an hour drift again.
Yes, you do.
Yep.
Nathan, yeah, you bring us right back on point, man. You're exactly right. I just wanted to waller in the incoherent absurdity of gases spinning in lockstep with anything. It's preposterous absurdity. Right on its face. So I don't know but it depends on who you talk to also. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like to get into the Coriolis Effect argument out on the circuit, because for one, they don't know what it's not that they don't know what it is. They get these citations from people that don't know what it is, but they can't evaluate it. They just parrot what's being said. They don't understand it. And everyone's got different ideas on what it is. That's why it gets so convoluted. That's why I have them define it right out of the gate. And you can tell that they're just making stuff up. Even if they have a citation, they don't understand what they're saying. You follow?
Yeah, they don't understand the Coriolis effect. That's why Simon Dan did what he did. He thought my explanation was my argument when it's me detailing their position. If you don't know what the Coriolis effect is, you're not going to recognize that.
Yep.
You're going to end up debunking your own claim of drift and saying the reference frames used to assert it are ruined. That's idiocy based on a lack of a comprehension of Coriolis.
Which is quite simple, isn't it? I find the Coriolis effect, understanding it, very easy from the outset. We're going to get into it. We ready?
Just in case you want, I put that funny citation in BALLBUSTERS chat.
What, super rotation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
I
you want
haven't
to share
caught
it, I
that.
mean,
That'll be a first for me. I'll check that out after the show.
no doubt.
All right, let's get into it, man. So, we're not spinning, people, for multitudes of reasons. Let's define this monkey. And like I said, it's very easy to understand. It's not like we can't evaluate or assess this, that it's out of our hands. It's something we can't touch. We've all experienced this, mainly on a merry-go-round. Everyone that's been on a merry-go-round has tried this, right? So it's not like it's some big mystery. We can all do this, but let's define this thing. So for the Coriolis effect to exist, you must have the necessary conditions of two differing frames of reference. One rotating coordinate system that's non-inertial, that's the Earth, and one non-rotating coordinate system that's the inertial, that's the atmosphere, and anything in it that's not tethered to that rotating reference frame. So, from Douglas Segar, Introduction to Ocean Sciences, Critical Concept Reminders. When set in motion, freely moving objects, including air and water masses, move in straight paths while the Earth continues to something. Rotate independently. We'll get back to that something here in a second. Because freely moving objects are not carried with the Earth as it rotates, they are subject to an apparent deflection called the Coriolis Effect. To an observer rotating with the Earth, freely moving objects that travel in a straight line appear to travel in a curved path on the Earth. Now, back up here, the reason I said something is we got in a discussion over at 24/7 concerning the Coriolis effect, and I posted this citation, and I had the person reading it out that didn't understand what the Coriolis effect was start reading. So he started reading, he got here, and moving straight paths while the Earth continues to, and he hesitated and then said something. That's it's so funny. They can't even say it. The intellectual integrity and cognitive dissonance is so strong. They realize that it's a train wreck of a dumpster fire. Because to have the Coriolis effect, which is just a sight gag, that's all it is. That's how I frame it. It's a sight gag. Because nothing's happening to that object that you throw off the merry-go-round. That thing is going straight. However, because you're continuing, you who threw it, are continuing to rotate on the merry-go-round, that ball or whatever you throw off appears to curve. But in actuality, it's not curving. It's going straight. It's only giving that appearance because you are rotating. You are still in that rotating reference frame when the object's not. It's just as simple as that. And like I said, you don't need a rocket science degree to figure this out. Most kids understand this, after one trip on the merry-go-round, maybe two at the most. So it's not difficult. So in other words, anything not tethered to the Earth is freely moving. Folks, even airplanes are freely moving, even though they have the ability to turn. That's not what we're talking about. It's still, with the ability to turn, it's still freely moving. You get me? Number two, the object in question is not physically attached to the rotating coordinate system, the Earth, like I said. It appears to deflect. That is, moves independently of the rotating coordinate system. It doesn't keep rotating once you throw it off the merry-go-round. If you think it does, I got a 1-800 number you need to call. I mean, second graders are laughing at you. So it moves independently of the rotating coordinate system from the vantage point anywhere on the rotating coordinate system. In this case, they're saying the Earth. But in our example, we're just using the merry-go-round, just to emphasize the point. So here's the really important part. So if the Coriolis effect exists with respect to the Earth, see, we're not saying the Coriolis effect doesn't exist because we've all experienced it. It's just it doesn't exist with respect to the Earth, the topic that we're focused on. This is real easy. Then a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA nonstop, traveling at 500 miles an hour airspeed, with both locations roughly at the 35th degree north latitude, that is, both allegedly spinning at 860 miles an hour, should be 1.5 hours. But the flight actually takes 4.5 hours. Charlotte to LA flight airspeeds 500 miles an hour, the ground speeds 500 miles an hour, plus the 860 miles an hour rotation speed that's spinning underneath the airplane in its face. You have to add those together. That is a total of 1,360 miles an hour. That's simple. Like I said, two differing frames of reference. Number one, the Earth, and two, the atmosphere, and everything in that atmosphere that's not tethered to the Earth. The plane in the atmosphere is freely moving. Like I said, it's not attached to the rotating coordinate system and is flying in a straight path. Not that it can't deviate from that straight path on its own. That's not what we're talking about. Yes, planes can turn. Duh. That's not what we mean. In other words, based on the law of non-contradiction, each the Coriolis effect with respect to the Earth and the Charlotte flight at 1.5 hours are either both true or both false. It's just that simple. The flight is most assuredly false, therefore the Earth is not spinning, ergo the spinning ball goes by way of the dodo bird, or you're a stationary ball geocentrist. That's it. Done. Voila. Now on to my new 5-step plan. Better known as the 5-point palm globetard exploding fairy tale religion technique. If there's no spin, flat Earth wins, baby. Now let's take a look at this. Now, Wiki does us a good service here. I've been using this for some years now to try to emphasize the point. Let's see if we can get there. Now, even the depiction below identifies two different reference systems. Listen closely. In the inertial frame of reference, the upper part of the picture, the black ball moves in a straight line, as you can see. However, the observer, the red dot, who is standing in the rotating non-inertial frame of reference, the lower part of the picture, he's the dot, sees the object as following a curved path due to the Coriolis and centrifugal forces present in the frame. Now, let me ask you a question. Did anything in this discussion here mention anything about latitude lines? Did it mention anything about direction? Did it mention anything about speed or angular velocity? No, it didn't mention any of those things. It's the same reason it doesn't mention grandma's chicken soup or gummy bears, because neither of those things that I just went over have anything to do with this. It's just as simple as that. You are the red dot that's rotating. The ball that's being thrown is going straight. Now, it appears to curve because you are the one that's curving. It's only an apparent deflection. That means not actually. It only appears. It's a sight gag. There is no force here. I don't think I can break this down any further. I really don't think I can. Let me keep that up just in case. Did somebody have something to say about that real quick?
Yeah, John, could it be said that there would have to be forces in place, but not subjected to the object that seems to displace because of the Coriolis effect, but instead to the observer who is the one actually displacing?
Yes.
They would have to be in order to have the effect, right?
Yeah. What I'm saying is there is no Coriolis force. There's no force here. This ball isn't experiencing a Coriolis force. A plane that takes off isn't experiencing a Coriolis force. They're not calling them from the ground saying that they've gotten complaints that people on the ground have seen the Coriolis force and have them adjust their route.
Right. It's an effect, not a force.
It's preposterous. It's only a sight gag, and it's only an effect for the people that are spinning in the rotating reference frame. The people on the plane are sucking down pina coladas and friggin' peanuts. Nothing's happening to them.
Arwen's right. Yes, Arwen. The whole point of it is that you're observing it from frame of reference that's rotating, and it's your observation of something gives you this described effect. Well, the effect, if you're observing, say, for a sake of argument, a lamppost, and you're rotating underneath it on a child's merry-go-round, the lamppost and its trajectory is irrelevant. It's concreted into the ground. The apparent deflection you observe because you're turning underneath it is what Coriolis effect is. But when they try and detail, as Quantum Race has so beautifully done in his presentation, of course, explained, if you've got something that's not attached, the effect that you're observing is only in effect because you're turning underneath it. So in the beginning of the show, when we're all discussing how things wouldn't be moving away from the turning reference frame, i.e. moving as one, and that is the antithesis of Coriolis deviation. To have Coriolis deviation, Earth-based or otherwise, you have to be observing things that are not attached as you turn underneath. The justification, well, it's all turning as one, so we're not turning underneath then.
Yes, sir.
So could it be concluded from all this that basically the ballers discontort their understanding of the forces at play from the observer who is actually being subjected to forces in order to cause this Coriolis effect to the object moving? So they're discontorting this understanding on purpose.
It's
No,
just that
I wouldn't say.
their narrative leaves them no choice. Their narrative is doublespeak.
Yes.
So they've been left no choice but to argue in doublespeak in
Yes.
order to salvage the narrative.
Important point, Chocolate. You're all over it. I agree 100%. That's exactly what's happening. All right.
There is
Oh.
one.
All right, we can stop right here on my new 5-step plan because people want to talk. That's fine. Go ahead.
There's just one little bit that kind of links that in terms of trying to loose state of force. There is a force, is the frictional force that we discussed earlier, which is that what they're trying to pretend that there's some kind of major interaction that interlocks the two. So there is that minor force between the rotating surface and the individual molecule. There's a kind of, the analogy I try to imagine is what you're trying to be being bullshitted into to believe that. Imagine you've just got a fan and you wave a fan in front of your face, just that little bit, and you can feel that just that amount of wind that's generated there. Like, that's the false analogy. The reality is, if you were to take that fan, hold it face on, and move it up and down on the vertical as fast as you can, you wouldn't get any of the fan speed and the air movement because the frictional force is not directed. There's no direction of it, unlike with the fan, and that's what they're trying to presuppose. If they then try and use the bullshittery of trying to make lockstep second reference frame. Yeah, so the primary point, but the only force at play to me is that it was rotating. That would be that frictional force, and is akin to. Don't see a whirlwind on gator, do you? On a roundabout. There's no real dissipation of any kinetic energy between the air and rotating surfaces quickly dissipated buffered by much more rapidly moving air surrounding it.
Yep. Good. You guys got it all out?
The contradiction doublespeak term that Adam used, which was lockstep second reference frame.
It's brilliant. That's why I try to bullshit. That's what they're trying to get you to have to accept, a lockstep second reference frame, so that they can then, send this, because without you having to accept that it both rotates and doesn't rotate, some of the more intelligent ones do.
That's a married state of bachelor, man.
Exactly. Exactly, but that's what their flim-flam is designed for, to make you accept that.
However, Dan's intervention has made it quite nice to summarize what their position really is, which is to say, rhetoric says they have 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath, give you an observation of things appearing to drift if they're not attached. That's the rhetoric of the globe. We come along and point out that if we're turning underneath things that aren't attached, then you'd have shortened flight times, as per Charlotte, North Carolina to LA in an hour and a half instead of 4 hours. They hear that and say, no, we shouldn't have Earth turning underneath, as you've just summarized our position. That would be the flat earthers summarizing the demolition of the Coriolis drift that we do not see. Earth isn't turning underneath anything that they claim it is. When we point that out, they say, no, we wouldn't expect to see anything turning underneath. We wouldn't expect to see the drift. So they're essentially at that point debunking a claim they make because we've reasserted their position and how it's absurd. They say, no, you wouldn't expect things to turn underneath. That's Coriolis Effect, by the way.
They just debunked Foucault's pendulum, by the way, if you didn't expect that. Because that's...
And Bob gyro. When they say, thanks, Bob, 15 degrees an hour drift. Well, that's Earth turning underneath, claimed single reference frame of the gyro spinning, and Earth claimed to be turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. That's what they're saying when they say, thanks, Bob. Well, no. Because if Earth's turning underneath a gyro, it's turning underneath things in an inertial reference frame. That's a demonstration of Coriolis drift. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, Dan. I won't put quotes around it. You and your reference frames have been ruined, globe-believing fundies.
Wait till we get at the end here. We're going to get to the Foucault pendulum. And if you say no to that, things rotating with the Earth rotating above the Earth, right? If you say the Earth doesn't rotate, you're done. You're finished. All right.
Thanks, Dan.
We'll get there. Go ahead, Chocolate.
No, just thinking, Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.
Stan, no drift.
All right, let's roll to my new 5-step plan. I know you all seen it, better known as the 5-point palm globe-tart exploding fairy tale religion technique. If there's no spin, a flat earth wins. And this is just the wiki reference up here again. I don't think we're going to need this anymore. I'll just leave it set up there because that's just simply the Coriolis effect. No way around it. So let's follow my points. There's going to be a curveball. No pun intended. But it's only an apparent curve coming at you. So point number 1. If the Coriolis effect exists on the Earth, then A, the Earth must be spinning, rotating, non-inertial reference frame. B, the object affected by the Coriolis must be moving through the non-rotating inertial frame of reference. Because if it was in the rotating non-inertial reference frame, there wouldn't be any apparent deflection. Duh. This is untethered to the rotating non-inertial reference frames, such as aeroplanes, helicopters, balloons, missiles, bullets, everything that's not attached to the Earth in the inertial reference frame. They're subject to the Coriolis effect. Must be, gotta be. Number 2, then they say, well, airplanes, this is one of the funniest things, I think. Well, it's not the funniest. It's up there, though. The airplanes are not affected by Coriolis. It's so much doublespeak, it depends on who you talk to. So let me just clear this up for you. From Physics About, the Coriolis effect, also called the Coriolis force, is defined as the apparent deflection of objects, such as airplanes, wind, missiles. You getting it? Airplanes. Do you see this? Right? Moving in a straight path relative to the Earth's surface. Right? It can be affected because it's not attached to the rotating reference frame. Even though planes can turn, it's still subject because they can fly straight too. So when they fly straight, they are subject to that apparent deflection. Just that simple. Doesn't matter what the latrine colors are, whether it's powered, whether it's got motors, wings. I don't care what it's got on it, whether it's got mice, on a spinning wheel. Doesn't matter. It's not tethered to that rotating reference frame. It's subject to the Coriolis effect. So point 2 is taken. Point 3, here's that curveball. So at this point, as long as it's established, and it is, that airplanes are subject to the Coriolis effect, we now drop, I should say I do, I now drop the Coriolis effect argument. I drop it. I've been doing this for years. This throws them a curveball. They're not ready for this one. My actual argument has always been the Coriolis causes, not the Coriolis effect, but the Coriolis causes. I went about it to say, okay, if you're saying that the Coriolis effect exists, then ipso facto, the causes that produce that effect must be true. Hope everyone understands that. That's why I go to this one, because it's easy. Now we can just crush it. Everyone can crush it just with simple airplane flights. So the Coriolis causes, conditions, like I said, conditions that afford the existence of the Coriolis effect. That's the 2 differing reference frames. That's it. So, point 4, the velocity of a plane, the airspeed traveling due east or due west, must be either added or subtracted to the velocity of the rotating Earth depending upon the direction of travel of the plane. So, if a plane is traveling due west at 500 miles an hour airspeed and the Earth is traveling due east at 860 miles an hour ground speed, the velocities are added together. 500 miles an hour air plus 860 miles an hour ground. You have to add those together. That gives you a total of 1,360 miles an hour. So a plane traveling due west with an airspeed of 500 miles an hour has a total ground velocity of 1,360 miles an hour. Hopefully everyone gets that. Too easy. Point 5. To find the t the plane flight would take, we use the formula. Distance equals rate times time. Rearranging to solve for time, t would be d over r equals t. Simple. So the distance from Charlotte, North Carolina to LAX is 2,115 miles. The rate from above is 1,360 miles an hour. 2,115 miles divided by 1,360 miles per hour. That's what we got. Ergo, the flight time must be 1.5 hours. Must be. You can't get around it. It's maths. Does this flight time exist from Charlotte, North Carolina? Go ahead and look it up. There is a nonstop flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles. Go ahead and look it up. That is the flight time. Not the boarding and all the other times. I'm just talking about flight time. Therefore, because it doesn't exist, the Earth is not spinning. Ergo, the spinning ball goes by way of the dodo bird, or you're a stationary ball geocentrist. Simple, voila. Now spinning space monkeys. Take 5 steps. Questions, comments up to this point?
Right, as ever. But the key detail is to have Coriolis effect, which Earth as a ball spinning through a sky vacuum has, to observe the effect, you have to be spinning underneath stuff. Now, as the 5-point exploding globetard technique lays out, once you understand what is being claimed, and their side claims we have Coriolis, again, I'll reiterate, that means we're turning underneath stuff. Once you understand that that is what you must have for there to be Coriolis effect, you can point out that we haven't got it. Not turning underneath anything. Again, back to the beginning of this show where we're all talking about, well, maybe Earth and atmosphere could have traveled together if we had fans and everything. All of that is in contradiction to the actual claim the globetards have. They claim Coriolis effect. That's us turning underneath stuff. And that would shorten flight times. Once you understand, you can then take it apart. Don't fall into the trap of them arguing about whether or not buses are closed when you're throwing balls in them. They're traveling along at a certain speed, because that's in the face of their actual claim. They claim Earth turns underneath. Don't lose track of that. That's, I get to my point, because it's been summed up so beautifully by Quantum Eraser once already. That is the cause of Coriolis. If there's Coriolis, we're turning underneath stuff, shortening flight times.
Yes, sir. Let's move on to the only way that can be refuted. Just what we went over with the 5-point plan. The only way that can be refuted, and we talked about this in the beginning, is if you're of the position that the atmosphere spins with the Earth. That's the only out you got, right? But you can't do that because you're stuck with the definition of what the Coriolis effect is. But it's pretty funny. I like to just go through them. So then, please explain how the Coriolis effect can exist when the necessary conditions for it to exist are two different coordinate systems or reference frames. You got the one rotating non-inertial, the Earth, and one rotating inertial, or one non-rotating inertial, the atmosphere, and everything in it. And we already looked at that. There they are right there. Let's do it again. The inertial frame of reference, you see this one? The inertial frame of reference, and then the rotating non-inertial frame of reference. Do you see those two there? Let me highlight them again for you. See that? 1, 2. Get it? My word. So, this is just a violation of the law of non-contradiction. It's just what it is. That's the first one. You got many more coming down the stream here. Number 2, show the experiment where gases or a gas rotate in lockstep with a rotating solid body just 5 centimeters above the surface, then provide the mechanism. You do understand gases have no intermolecular bonds. Obviously rhetorical. So do gas molecules attach to the Earth and each other by Velcro, superglue, molasses, pixie dust, other? And gas molecules, that's air, vibrate and move freely at high speeds. Here's a good visual for spinning space monkeys. Take this in. We're at Purdue University. This is a view of solids. They vibrate, but they can't do too much here. Liquids a little bit more. Little vibration going on here, but can't be moving too much here. And then the microscopic view of gases. What's happening here? It doesn't look like these are attached to each other. And they're going every which way. This is 5th grade general science, folks. That's the scary part. Let's keep that there. We might need that later. So question, how can gas molecules that make up the atmosphere that move freely and randomly at high speeds, yet according to the intellectual elite Baltards, rotate in unison, that is not moving freely and randomly at high speeds with the Earth from west to east? Right? You can't get around it. That's another violation of the law of non-contradiction. That's number 2. Number 3 is right on its heels. Please explain east, north, and south surface winds. on a spinning ball that has the atmosphere, that's air, wind, and gas, rotating it from west to east. Does everyone get this? I put this out and I start laughing. I assume everyone just gets what I'm saying here. If you don't get this real quick, let me move on. So east, north, and south, if the atmosphere is spinning from west to east, then it is impossible for there to exist east, north, and south surface winds. Just as simple as that. Violation of the law of non-contradiction number 3. This is my favorite, by the way. Bonus question. How can you have different wind speeds moving in different directions simultaneously at differing elevations of the atmosphere, all the while the atmosphere is collectively spinning east in unison at the same? How can they all be different and the same at the same time? Well, they can't, because it'd be easier reconciling married bachelors, and it forces us right into the violation of the law of non-contradiction number 4. By the way, these are contradictory statements, number 1 and number 2. The atmosphere spins with the earth, and number 2, the existence of east, north, and south surface winds. I'm just using the surface winds, not all the different winds, right? At differing levels of the atmosphere. That's what I said right here. Not even speaking to the differing wind directions and speeds at many levels of the atmosphere simultaneously. Primary school example, lower clouds moving different direction speeds than higher clouds. We have all witnessed this, haven't we? You look it up in the sky, especially in the fall and the wintertime, it seems. But you look up in the sky, you got the lower level clouds going one direction. You got the mid-level clouds going the other direction. You got the high-level clouds going a completely different direction. And they're all moving from west to east, really. That makes perfect sense. So, you have to answer this question, Baltards. Which do you think is false, number 1 or number 2? One of them has to be false. So, the atmosphere spins with the earth or the existence of east, north, and south surface winds? You choose. Moreover, following the baller's yarn, every cubic nanometer of atmosphere traveling horizontally from the equator to the center of rotation must have differing tangential speeds. And every cubic nanometer of atmosphere rising in elevation from each respective horizontal cubic nanometer of atmosphere must have differing tangential speeds. In fact, the higher the elevation, the faster they'll need to travel to keep up. And all of this rolling along at different speeds in unison, east. Violation of the law of non-contradiction number 5. We're going for a record here. This is so far beyond crayon munching, preposterous ludicrousness, absurdity, evolution, whatever that is, and I'm still laughing. Multiverses and married bachelors are blushing. And does anyone know how far up this increasing speed, rope-a-dope, fairy tale spinning atmosphere ends? I'd like to see that. It'll give a whole new meaning to guillotine wind shear. Goodness gracious, people. P.S. Are the gas molecules attached to each other by Velcro, glue, pixie dust, other, like I said above? And where is the energy coming from for the continuous shot in the arm, a real sleeve roller-upper, injections needed to keep each successive cubic nanometer of atmosphere higher elevation brethren in tow? That's what we were talking about when we were talking about the first law of violation. First law of thermodynamics. Can't create energy out of thin air. No pun intended. Oh, we're stopping right there. Questions, comments?
Definitely. If you're the person involved in a discussion with a globetard about this exact subject, how it's not possible to have Earth and atmosphere travelling as one, keep in the back of your mind that if they win the argument and violate the first law of thermodynamics, what they've actually done by winning is giving you a conclusive debunking of Coriolis drift. So they have a claim that we're supposed to be turning underneath stuff as a separate reference frame, and yet we find ourselves arguing about how Earth travels with the atmosphere. Yeah, flying in the face of the claim we have drift. 2 reference frames. I'll just think of a quote that might be a poignant one for this moment. Simon Dan, you and your reference frames have been ruined. So you haven't got any drift? And that's why we end up in conversations like this, where they're discussing how we don't have drift, but they're supposed to. Just keep that in the back of your mind.
Any more comments? This is this a slam
well, it's-
dunk?
Well, you know, this is like ad territory. It's like beating a dead horse at this point.
I used to get all kind of comments. I started eating a banana because I figured people would start to comment a little bit. But that's just not happening. You know why? Because at this point, this is becoming such a slam dunk. I'm smiling with banana in my teeth. That's it. We can roll on. We're good.
I'm just scared.
You're just scared.
Scaredy cat. Scaredy cat.
Scaredy cat. The other week, Nathan said, "Oh, told me off," because there is a bullshit rebuttal that I did hear back in the day, but it seems to have disappeared. And you have addressed all the points and in what you've outlined there, but the differential tangential excuse, which is bullshit in itself when you look at the with regards to gas behaviour. That's it, really. And even that now, I don't hear ballers presenting that argument. They don't seem capable of even comprehending that or putting it eloquently, even as a defence. It's just called switcheroo.
It's the switcheroo.
Well, that's what they tried to revert to, but a while back there was that differential, and it comes with the the bit you can take apart completely, which is, you know, that requires your plane to carry that tangential speed. You know what I mean? Which makes it more laughable. That I seem to have seen as diminished as an argument, maybe because it is just so laughable to get into carrying those tangential speeds, which is the crux of Neil deGrasse Tyson's, why it's 2 inches. You know, the Coriolis effect only affected by 2 inches. It's that 10 differential tangential speeds carried. And it was, you know what I mean? The carried this speed, and the Earth rotation, and the difference at this latitude was this moved by this much. That's why it's only such a small amount in there. Hypothesis. Article.
It's just not quaffable, man.
You're talking about hearing old arguments, but look at the point that they're at right now. They're telling us our reference frames have been ruined. Meanwhile, debunking their own reference frames
That they
How does
still
that work?
believe in.
that they
Remember?
believe in at the same time. Like, it's led their attempt to confuse us with this ridiculous doublespeak narrative has led them to be confused by their own narrative. They don't even know how to argue it anymore, because it's like John said, it's lockstep. Whoa, okay, that means no drift. Oh, you got drift? So then it's not lockstep. What's hard to understand about that?
It's selective Coriolis drift, chocolate. Selective Coriolis drift.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. That's why it's quiet. It's like, this is beyond ridiculous at this point.
They're not catching your drift, chocolate.
Down as follows. They think there should be drift. We show them there isn't any drift. So they tell us, of course there isn't any drift. Debunking their own claim. But they pat themselves on the back because they've debunked their own claim of drift when we point out there isn't any. So then they assert, exactly as Dan did to put the icing on the cake, but I believe in it. Like, okay, you'll show us an example with no drift. You'll tell us how the reference frames used in an example that would have drift are ruined. then affirm that you still believe in drift, though.
That's the kind of final philosophical point when you look back at, Dan's behaviour is kind of exemplifies where we're at. You have to ask the question then, well, why would you ruin something that you believe in? Is that the last desperate attempt to use? But why would you ruin genuinely?
The reason he's not ruining something he believes in is because it's obviously not occurring. And when we say, obviously, Earth isn't rotating under anything, because we're flat earthers asserting it, they hear him or the flat earthers saying, stuff isn't rotating underneath. Well, I've got to prove that it shouldn't be rotating underneath. It's like, but that's your claim that's supposed to prove it spins. You're supposed to have us rotating underneath. They don't know how Coriolis effect works. They don't know which bit they're supposed to be debunking. They end up debunking their own claim, like Simon Dan did. Just doesn't understand Coriolis, like 90% of the people who argue with us.
It's quite preposterous out there, folks. I'm telling you that it's total double speak. They contradict themselves. I can't. It's hard to put it into words how they can possibly deconstruct their own argument. It's like they're not attached. They don't have a firm grip on reality and just simple logic. I don't get it.
John. It has a word. It's called a fallacy pioneer.
Can I say something?
No.
Well, I'm gonna anyway. As a New York Yankee fan, I wish that the Earth was spinning, so the pitch that was thrown last night could have curved a little bit, so the Tampa Bay Devil Rays could not have hit the ball over the wall and send the Yankees home. That's all.
Yeah, right. Likely story.
So when Sam and Dan refers to the dude jumping on a trampoline, moving track, he essentially implies momentum, and the lockstep notion nullifies any effect of Coriolis.
Hot on.
Yeah.
Well, remember when his greasy lawyer, the Rumpus,
So then
came
why
in,
can't he? So when he refers to the jumping silliness attractor, it's obvious he's referring to momentum, therefore lockstep, quote unquote, atmosphere.
Yeah, and it's
Why does he at the same time claims Coriolis? I'm not getting it, or he's in agreement with the Coriolis not being an effect.
What? No, you're right. So I've pointed out that his demonstration, which absolutely you're right, he's implying that we have lockstep rotation of atmosphere with a beg the question of Earth that spins. Correct. But when I pointed out that stands in contradiction to their claim we have 15 degrees an hour, he's then had to kowtow to Rumpus when Rumpus is saying, "You do believe the drift though, right, Dan?" And Dan's gone, "Yeah, Rumpus, I still believe." That's what's happened.
Yeah, well,
So is this the case of
and I
him
think he
shooting
had to
himself in
say
the foot?
that. He had to say that because Rumpus had just come in and argued that that Nathan was misrepresenting his argument, that he was arguing the conservation of momentum.
oh god.
This was Rumpus saying that. Yes. And that's when Dan ended up in the chat talking about, yes, I believe in the drift, but it's not my fault they don't understand the video, which shows no drift. Oh my god, it's amazing.
Well, his video is appealing and demonstrating momentum. And the only question is, why is he referring to this video if only to demonstrate or appeal to a lockstep type of condition?
Well, that's the problem.
Which nullifies the Coriolis.
Sorry. Yeah, apparently in the tweet he says you and your reference frames are ruined. Well,
No,
what
I
do you
get
need
that.
to
I get
have
that.
Coriolis effect again? What do you need?
reference.
Yeah,
frames.
you're right. So he's
There you go.
nullifying Coriolis.
Yeah, exactly. You
Thanks, Dan.
summarized it quite beautifully. He's nullifying the claim that there's drift by showing an example that will lead on to him assuming Earth turns and assuming that unbonded gas particles travel with it. Well, in that assumption, a begging the question fallacy, he's standing in contradiction to the actual claim that comes down from the priesthood. So Neil deGrasse Tyson, when he says the ball is drifting because you're turning underneath it, the goal moves and then it goes through because the goal moved. No, the ball wasn't attached anymore. That's drift. But Dan must believe in the drift, even though he's quite literally sending me an example that says, look, no reference frame deviation, no drift, traveling together. Yeah, of course he's going to beg the question.
It's moron
That's
on
right.
multiple. Hold on, it's moron on multiple levels. He's saying there's no drift, and he's sending. I can't. It's just too difficult to wade through the bullshit.
Got a quick question.
I don't think he's saying there is no drift. He's implying momentum.
No, he's saying
Which
that there
no-
is drift, but he's showing a video with no drift.
Well, this is my
And,
point.
and then at the same time saying that the one thing that causes the drift that he supposedly believes in has been ruined.
So do reference frames relate to this conservation of momentum
Oh,
thing?
here we go. Okay,
Does it?
let's
Does it?
nip this
Well,
in the.
then
Hold on, Arwen, you brought it up. Let's nip this in the bud right now. Number one, they spout this conservation of momentum, and they don't know what they're talking about because most people think it's the conservation of angular momentum. Listen, conservation of momentum has nothing whatsoever to do with this topic in the first place. That's the first belly laugher. The second belly laugher, you get people saying the conservation of angular momentum. Well, in respect to the Earth system, they're talking about the Earth. It's the Earth with the angular momentum. So they don't even under angular momentum. Golf tees have more in common or are more relevant than angular momentum is with the Coriolis effect. Number two. Number three, they don't understand the conservation of linear momentum. See, that's what they're trying to say, but they don't know it. In Dan's example, in his little tractor going at 10 miles an hour, do you see the walls that is between the wind and the guy jumping and the guy bouncing off the trampoline? You see that? And behind, it's creating a little no-fly zone in there. Let me ask you a question. Let's say I get in a flatbed Ford in Winslow, Arizona, right? I get on the highway, and I have my buddy standing in back with a ping pong ball or a baseball or a softball or anything. And I get up to about 80 miles an hour on the highway. And I say, hey, Joe, throw it up in the air. Is that ball going to come back down in his hand?
You just outlined a very interesting point there.
is it
So
a
when
windy
you
day?
mentioned the boards on the front and the back of the jumping cylinders, right? So it essentially means that Dan is claiming that jumping inside a moving train or inside of airplane is the same as jumping on top of moving airplane, right? Is what he's saying.
More or
sort
less. It's a little less dramatic because the sides are open and the top's open on his little tractor pull.
Yeah. So minus the boards, that's the situation.
And the speed. It's not going that fast, folks.
Yeah, just let me just reiterate this one more time, right?
Go ahead.
So for this to be a relevant example, in line with a globe claim that's supposed to prove Earth spins, what this example would need to show is the guy drifting, because that's what they actually claim. This whole nonsense arguing about the whys and wherefores of why he isn't drifting is nonsensical.
You're right.
Because Dan is supposed to be, and now admits he believes, that there is drift. Well, what's causing the confusion? I'll explain. Coriolis effect has just been detailed by Quantum Eraser with a ping pong ball that drifts. Now, given that he's given that explanation, to the untrained ear, it sounds like Coriolis Effect is being claimed to exist by QE. Therefore, Dan comes along and hears Quantum Eraser detailing how a ping pong ball would drift and says, no, I'm going to debunk that and show how there isn't drift. In reality, Quantum Eraser's description of a ping pong ball drifting away is a description of what globe heads think should happen on a spinning Earth as we turn underneath stuff that's not attached. So while QE is eloquently describing the ping pong ball drifting away from the flatbed, that's not QE's claim. It's his summary of the globe claim. But someone like Dan hears it and is so stupid, they think they need to debunk QE's eloquent summary of the globe-tard's position. So Dan comes along and says, I'm going to debunk that a ping pong ball would drift away, like Earth would turn underneath a plane. Like, no, stop, my friend. That's your claim. You're supposed to be backing that, not debunking it.
You know why this misunderstanding happens, right? It's because ballers never explain elaborately and clearly what Coriolis really is.
Don't understand it.
That's what I said in the beginning.
Right. So it's only the flat earthers that give the complete official definition of it without any stupid misunderstandings.
Yep.
And therefore they're misunderstanding that for weight.
Yep.
They're saying it out loud
Yes, sir.
completely.
You got it.
They must be claiming it.
Yes. Good job, Nathan. Exactly. You're right. It's incredibly stupid. Yep. But pay attention to that conservation. I love the conservation of momentum. I love when they bring that up. That's just my personal thing, right? I got with the drift. Can somebody can somebody go get Sci-Fi Scam and please, he can come on here. We're not going to douse him, with fire or anything. We just want to hear his explanation because again? Mic discipline, please. I'm getting feedback. So, like I said, somebody go get Sci-Fi Scam and tell them the link. This is a BALLBUSTERS, so the link is in the description. We're not going to douse him. We're not going to hammer on him. We just want to hear his explanation of this. It's very simple what he did. Tell us. So there's no mystery. Sent the tractor with the guy bouncing on the trampoline and said that our reference frames were ruined. Please explain that and how that either debunks our argument or reinforces yours. So everyone is on the same page because, sir, your rebuttal video was a non sequitur on steroids. You didn't even address the topic. So can you please come in here like an adult? Just explain it to us. I'll give you the mic. Because I need to know because this is too stupid.
Louis, when you said minus the dramatism, when I gave an example over air, that's the whole point, isn't it? They're showing the picture of a tractor moving. To further outline the point, you can make the same example. You can move the example forward and present a picture of a moving plane with a trampoline situated on top of it, man jumping on it. That's the whole point of its example. It doesn't matter if it's a tractor or the car or the train or a plane. That's what I'm trying to outline.
Yeah, that's
giving his example of a tractor. You can move that example onto the airplane.
Yeah, I got you. You already said that. Yeah, that's a side point. It all revolves. Sorry for the pun. It all revolves around this lack of drift. He's not getting the drift. So, like I said, we just want to come in to have him explain this. So not only the people here on the show in Discord, but the audience can understand what's going on here because this isn't going to end. Dan, Sci-Fi Scam. This isn't going to end. It's going to keep going until you own up to it. Just want to let you know. Let's roll on. And one of my favorite topics, Hurricanes. So you're saying that hurricanes spin in opposing directions in northern versus southern hemispheres, second question fallacy, respectively, due to Coriolis effect. I'd sure like some of the angel dust lace shrooms the spinning space monkeys are starting. Let's take a look at this, folks. Pay attention carefully. Please focus on apparent deflection, that is not real or not actual, appears, does not actually, in the following citations of the Coriolis effect. Here comes a bunch of different definitions, different citations of the same thing. Okay? Back to Seagar Douglas real quick, which we started the presentation out with. The Coriolis effect. When set in motion, freely moving objects, including air and water masses, that's atmosphere, air is atmosphere. That's a contradiction in terms, by the way. And water masses, that's clouds and water vapor, move in straight paths while the Earth continues to rotate independently. Because freely moving objects are not carried with the Earth as it rotates, they are subject to, here it comes, an apparent deflection called the Coriolis effect. To an observer rotating with the Earth, freely moving objects that travel in a straight line, here it is for a second time, appear to travel in a curved path. Appear and apparent deflection means not actual. Not actual. So we got the University of Florida and the University of Oregon. They've adopted the same definition, so we'll just go over it once. The effect of the Coriolis force is at what? Apparent deflection. That means not actually. Of the path of an object that moves within a rotating coordinate system, it's going to tell you right here. That object does not actually. That's what apparent in this context means. The object does not actually deviate from its path, but it appears to do so because of the motion of the coordinate system. That strangely echoes from this, doesn't it? From the Utah State University, the Coriolis force is an imaginary force. Because objects affected by it are really following a straight path. It is an apparent deflection. We see from the vantage point frame of reference of the rotating Earth. That sounds similar to what's depicted in this GIF, right? Because we're rotating. You see the brown dot? That's us. We're rotating around, but the ball's going straight, but it appears to curve because we're the one that's rotating. So they seem all to be on the same sheet of music. From California State University, the Coriolis effect describes, here we go again, the apparent deflection, not actual deflection, or curving of an object traveling in a straight line. Let's round this out from encyclopedia.com. Within its rotating coordinate system, the object acted on by the Coriolis effect appears to deflect, not actually, off its path of motion. Here we go again. This deflection is not real. Let me say that again. This deflection is not real. It only appears to happen because the coordinate system that establishes a frame of reference for the observer is also rotating. Yes, the Earth that you're standing on. So everyone sees these, right? Y'all see them? Here comes the punchline. Huh? We've seen these on the Weather Channel, Nightly News, BBC, right? These are actual spin directions. Let me stress that. Actual spin directions. What I was talking about above is not actual. Appears, apparent, not actual. Does not actually. This deflection is not real, it's apparent. However, but in this particular case, these are actual spin directions. We can see them from the inertial reference frame, can't we? Yes, we've all seen them. Let me ask you a couple questions. What does an actual spin direction have to do with the Coriolis effect which is an apparent deflection, not real, appears, does not actually. Por favor. Here's the answer key. Absolutely nothing. My word. In other words, here's the rub. How can clouds be apparently deflecting actually? Let me say that again. How can clouds be apparently deflecting actually? If you caught on to this, this is a violation of the law of non-contradiction on nuclear steroids. There's about 18 violations of the law of non-contradiction in here. This is tantamount to giving a presentation on quantum numbers with excruciating details on SPD and F orbitals, then concluding they are responsible for the creation of facultative anaerobe woodpeckers. That's where we're at here, folks. Alice in Wonderland is more tenable than the ball-tard spinning space monkey religion. The prosecution rests simple. You live in a fairy tale. The end, ball-tards. P.S. This is where it gets really funny. Listen closely. From plusmass.org. Folk called pendulum. This used to be the first one out of the gate for these guys back in the day. I hear it every now and again then. Listen to the definition of the Foucault pendulum. Once you set one in motion, its direction of swing will rotate at a rate of about 0.2 degrees every minute. But in fact, it isn't really the pendulum that's rotating. The pendulum is swinging back and forth in exactly the same direction. It's the Earth, which is what? Rotating underneath the pendulum, which makes it appear that the pendulum is in fact changing direction. What's that sound like? And for all the ball-tards that say nothing rotates underneath the pendulum, you got a big friggin' problem, by the way. But I digress. What does this sound like to you? Didn't we just go over this for the past hour and 15 minutes? Yeah, you got it. The Coriolis Effect. If that's true, then why, if this definition is true right here for the Foucault pendulum, and it is, then why couldn't we just hover in a helicopter in North Carolina for 3 hours and catch a Dodger game? That's the question. If the Foucault pendulum is legit, which denotes two separate reference frames, let's come back up here. You see the two separate reference frames? The pendulum is swinging back and forth in exactly the same direction. However, it's rotating underneath the Earth. The Earth is rotating underneath it. That's two separate reference frames, folks. If the Foucault pendulum is legit, like I said, which denotes two separate reference frames, then get ready. Here we go again. Then a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA, nonstop traveling at 500 miles an hour airspeed with both locations roughly 35th degree north latitude. You've heard this before. I.e. both allegedly spinning at 860 miles an hour should be approximately 1.5 hours. But it's at 4.5 hours. Charlotte to LAX, airspeed 500 miles an hour, ground speed 500 miles an hour. Like I said, you got to add that 860 coming in its face, the rotation speed of the Earth underneath it. That equals 1,360 miles an hour. The distance between Charlotte, North Carolina and LAX is 2,115 miles. Flight time must be 1.5 hours. Actual flight time, 4.5 hours. Does this 1.5 hour flight time ever happen? No? Then say bye-bye now to the ball-tard spinning space monkey religion. Oh, by the way, you could take this with you. Modus tollens. If P, then Q, not Q, therefore not P. If the Earth is a sphere spinning at 1,037 miles an hour at the equator, P, then a non-stop commercial flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to LAX traveling at 500 miles an hour airspeed should take no more than 1.5 hours. Q. The non-stop flight takes 4.5 hours. Not Q. Therefore not P. The Earth is not spinning. Thanks for a year. Have a nice day. I'll be in the area all week.
About time.
That was the last example. Was the example I took with me to Globebusters. It's a bit less controversial using the pendulum rather than the gyro, but the principle's the same. It lays it out in black and white. It's Earth turning underneath. That's what's causing the pendulum to seem like it's knocking over the dominoes. Not because the pendulum's swinging, it just goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's claimed Earth turns underneath. And that would shorten flight times. But that's what you've got to get your opponent to the point where he actually concedes. The actual rhetoric of a globe Earth that spins, that would be Earth turning underneath. This, well, we wouldn't expect Earth turns underneath because, like, yeah, you would. That's your rhetoric. And it's nonsense because Earth doesn't turn underneath. That's the debunking, not the rebuttal. Because if you provide it as a rebuttal, you'll end up like Simon Dan with us all laughing at you because it's not a rebuttal. It's actually you debunking your own claim.
Are
Yes,
we
sir.
talking about the Foucault pendulum?
Yes, Arwin. That was what the last.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I
Well-
was AFK for a bit. So. But yeah, I'd like to add that the Foucault pendulum is a pure mind experiment because there's literally nothing happening except for somebody made to focus, the observer, a swinging back and forth pendulum. And then in their mind, they're told to imagine that the Earth is turning underneath. So they're literally being hypnotized by a pendulum while they're being told that the Earth spins underneath. And that's the point.
It's
So
worse than that. Worse than that, because
But-
Falcon
but
pendulum will
worse than
actually
that,
only
really?
theoretically work. Yes, it will only theoretically work if your Falcon pendulum is directly at the pole. Anywhere else longitudinally,
yeah,
it will
but
not work.
that's only if you presuppose that it has any function other than to hypnotize the observer. So that, see,
That's
I
the
would,
trap.
let's just
That's-
agree with Arwin, otherwise he won't let it go. Yes, it's hypnotizing you. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, but
No.
going to the
Hold on. This is nonsense.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, their assertion. I'm going to have to play devil's advocate to address what you've said. In other words, I've got to come from their side of the argument. No, it's not the case that it'd have to be at the North Pole for the principle that they're employing in terms of why, and it's at its midpoint in the air, the Earth turns underneath and it swings. That's why you're only seeing a tiny amount of it. But that's not applicable to the idea that if you only put it over the top of the axis that it will show this effect. No, that's not specifically how they're detailing Earth turning underneath it. Nevertheless, they are claiming Earth turns underneath it.
I see what you're saying, but I cannot picture how the Falcon pendulum would even theoretically work unless it's in the pole.
The amount of drift varies the latitude according to their claim.
Yeah, but it moves radially, right? For it to move radially, not linearly, in an example of aeroplane, it has to be at the pole.
No.
That's my point.
As it swings back and forth, it's not affected. But then when it reaches the midpoint, so when it reaches the top of the swing, that's the point that there's going to be the deviation that they claim. Make sense? That amount will vary depending on where they claim you are on a presupposed spherical Earth.
Yeah, I hate to use that.
Hold on.
I
I hate
to use
this.
that.
I'm having to correct you on how the Globers, say someone's going to try and. In fact, what am I talking about? More eloquently, I can describe their own argument. The more these idiots will come along and try and debunk me when it's their argument. So I should do this more often.
Exactly.
that's why I just stick to saying it's a hypnotizing trick with a pendulum. And they're just telling you you're supposed to imagine that the Earth is turning underneath and it'll work out.
Do
I
you
just
see
don't want it
this?
being debunked wrong. I just don't want it to be debunked for the wrong reason. So when I first came to this subject, I haven't taken it down, but there is a video where I'm trying to debunk it based on what you've said. Now, had it not been for a bit more research into what they're actually claiming, I'd still be saying that. Oh, well, it makes no sense. Or even worse still, it's attached to the building. No, you're not understanding the principles that they're explaining with this pendulum. But that's all irrelevant. The only bit that matters is why they say it knocks the dominoes over. Well, why is it knocking the dominoes over? Well, because Earth's turning underneath. That's all you need to know, right? Because if it's turning
I get
underneath,
that.
shorten flight times. End of argument.
No, I get that. I'm talking about from a point of view, actually, from reality point of view. I understand what you're saying in terms of how they think about it, and I'm pointing out that how they think about it is wrong too.
Okay, I mean, I'll agree with you. It's fundamentally flawed on a multitude of different levels, and I suspect that's why they've picked it, because the less advanced you are in terms of their rhetoric about that particular device, more advanced globehead can come along and correct you. And at the point that you're corrected, they win, do they? Just because you don't understand the pendulum? I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying that's the way they play it. In the same way as if you don't fully understand what Coriolis Effect is with Earth turning underneath, they can attack you on how it doesn't do that because you won't be fully familiar. And I'm sure, me included, I've fallen victim to that. Ended up arguing about how we should see Earth turning underneath if we've got Coriolis Effect, and trying to get them to actually tie themselves to their own argument so you can then go on to debunk it. What's really happening is you're fighting to get them to adhere themselves to their own bloody argument. And why bother? From this point, just go, what's that you say? Turning together. No drift then. Why have the argument and try and get them to actually put their own position forward? Just point out that by saying it travels together or claiming Earth doesn't turn under the gyro, that debunks their claim that it does.
I understand that. You're right. And I wasn't talking to you guys in a sense. I was talking in a sense, or rather the other way around. I wasn't talking to them. I was talking to you. To get the point that circumstances as it is in their model is still good. But you get my point. That's all that matters.
I do understand why you're saying it's flawed in their own rhetoric. I get it.
That's all that matters. Yeah, rather than arguing about the physics of pendulum, just go along with the claim of the rotation.
Yeah,
I get it.
I've been the whole time I've been highlighting it, trying to do little different highlights because
this is so convoluted on so many levels. You just have to be very careful to pick your fights.
Well, the Earth, which is rotating underneath the pendulum. Turn out the lights, party's over. They say that all good things must end. You're dead. It's over, Baltards. This is over. Good night.
Again, that was QE, just for clarity. The globeheads. That was QE summarizing your position. That's not him saying it like he actually thinks Earth's turning underneath pendulums. No. That's him summarizing your position, just in case anyone else. I'm just saving anybody from the embarrassment Simon Dan's currently suffering. Now, you don't want to be in the position where you hear QE detailing how a pendulum works with Earth turning underneath and assume that's actually his position. It isn't. It's just his summary of the nonsense you believe in that would shorten flight times and have drones spinning away from you at 1,000 miles an hour as they hover.
But please feel free to come in and debunk your own nonsense. That's cool. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, if there's anybody else out there that feels the need to tell us how, I don't know, we don't need a geometric horizon, feel free.
Yeah, like Ed came on and debunked the space. Yeah, that was great.
Well, technically, Rumpus already outdid everyone with that by disclaiming that they ever claimed the geometric horizon. Remember that?
Shame he's not a someone, really. Oh well.
What happens when you deal with ideologues rather than
He's in here too.
We don't understand Coriolis.
Find out whose reference frames he thinks Dan's talking about. If you want to ask him that.
That you're in charge, Nathan. I think we could go through the group that's in here. If you wish, you are in charge, sir. You have the con.
Okay. Let's Out from the bottom up then, if Rumpus is at the bottom. Hold on, I'll just get my mouse so I can actually scroll. Here we go. Actually, him first. It's even know how to say that screen name. Can someone else introduce that guy? Crack.
Crosso,
villain.
Cracko,
Villain.
Crosso, Cracko.
Yes.
Yeah, boy. How is it, Q? You right, brother? Right, chocolate. Nathan.
Is it?
Oh, Adam Meekin. Hello.
Evening, Crack. You're right, mate. I was listening to you this
Yeah, I'm
afternoon.
all good, mate. Did you say you've listened to me? What?
I think we were on afternoon, chattering on 24/7 to evening.
Yeah, mate. I've definitely spoken to you over there. So, yeah. Wow. Just listening to that. Yeah, QE, you're definitely like the best game show host. It's become a game at this point, let's face it. So, yeah. You know, just love the way you sound when you talk about these knowledge feigning idiots.
Well, it's easy to be a game show host. It's called shooting hippos in a fishbowl.
Yeah, mate. Yep, exactly. With a punt gun. You know what that is? It's a huge shotgun, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Called
How do
shooting
we
fish
do,
in a
bro?
barrel.
Any comment on Coriolis Effect that you wanted to add?
Oh right. So Coriolis Effect. So well, what was it? Brenda the other day actually stated that the fuck alts, or well, got fuck all. I like to call it fuck all pendulum. So Brenda stated that actually it was powered by gravity. I said, oh, so back then that would be Newtonian gravity, right? You know, mass attracting mass. Yeah. Of course, yeah. The pendulum swings down, and because of the mass being closest to the vector of mass at a certain point, it pulls towards that, but then it has too much inertia and it carries on. I was like, oh, really? Are you really choosing to die this way on this hill? Like, yeah, it's mass attracting mass. It's not the rotation of the Earth. Okay. I don't think any of them understand the Coriolis effect or any of the so-called tests that they have to actually show this in any way, shape, or form. But I said, is there any way that you could sort of switch out Newtonian gravity and show me how that relates to Einsteinian gravity, please? And there was just a lot of silence. So I'd add that little part.
The audience's benefit because it doesn't. 4 space, 3 space. One doesn't have the other, etc., etc. But new one on me, that from Brenda. So not turning underneath the pendulum, but in fact mass attracting mass Newtonian gravity, a new level of idiocy.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
She got an Einstein interpretation.
She did say dog bones are clocks.
You took it from me.
What?
Also stated that speed limits are physical. That also thoughts are physical. And what was the other one, QE? Was it to do with physicist being? Oh, is it psychologist being a physicist? Wait there. You can do that one.
Yeah, you covered him.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
I think she might need to see a physician.
You want to add anything, Travis? There. Clearly not. Danger. Can you hear us? Danger.
They're shy.
Ah, shy. One more try. Danger. Anything to add on Coriolis Effect? Going once, going twice. Rebel. We've heard plenty from Rebel. Do we need final thoughts from Rebel, maybe?
Go ahead.
Hey, Rebel. Anything to add?
No, I've said everything I wanted to say. Good job, QE, Nathan.
Same goes for you, Neil. Did you want to add anything?
Nathan, it seems
Yes.
like Stranger Danger looks like he's server muted to me, even during when you were addressing him. So I don't know. Oh, he's
Hold on, but I'll try
unmuted.
again. Danger, can you hear us? Good call, Arwin. Good call.
Back on mute.
Yeah, that's me doing that. God. Okay, right. I'm now taking the next person off mute, which is FUG, whatever it is. I can't read at this distance. Hear us? Any comments on Coriolis? He said Rumpus was in here.
Oh, XD.
Somebody
He's
said
unmuted.
Ed.
somebody said Rumpus was in there, but he's not. Hey Nathan,
No.
could you
Ed.
Yeah.
His name is Al-Baruni.
Yeah, we got it. We're coming up, but Cracko has one short thing to say. Can you take him off?
Okay, yeah, sure. Go ahead, my friend.
Basically, psychology is pharmacology. Psychology is pharmacology now. Yes. Is it a dog bone? Dog bones are clocks.
Well, that's their source of income, you know. The discipline is what it is, but they've become dependent societally on the pharmacology, and that's the real problem.
Oh goodness gracious!
Oh, I'm lost for words, Arwin.
I'm trying to bring.
Sometimes it's okay to just laugh. It's okay to just laugh.
Was it? What was it she said were scientists? Maybe laugh out loud.
No, here we go. Hold up. Because she said that thoughts were physical. Witsit gets it asked her if psychologists were physicists.
And she responded in the affirmative, right?
Yes, and then I asked her, well, are they dog bones too? And she said, no, dog bones are clocks.
Right.
I just wonder if we can really use Brenda as a speaker for psychology. Like, I wonder what her peers would think of her. You know, haven't heard anyone in that field ever respond to her ever. So maybe we shouldn't rub off the entire field onto what she's doing. Just saying.
No, we're not. It's no aspersion whatsoever on psychologists, right? Unless the psychologist says he's a scientist, and then he can be condemned to hell, or she. But the point is that she's asserting that it's physics, and physics is dealing with the physical and natural world. It's primarily based in experimental data. So that's nothing to do with psychology. It's just her not understanding that. Witsit gets its very carefully phrased question to catch her out, and like Brenda ever does, she just falls straight into these traps. Jumps both feet first into them, and will even verbalize the declaration, not just say yes. That's what you'd think that would be the worst she could do, but no, she'll actually confirm what you're asking her. Yes, a shoe is a phenomena. She'll actually say it. Brilliant. Thank you for playing that.
Well, I'm definitely not going to reify any of her phenomenon claims, if you know what I mean. So,
but yeah, just on many a presentation, just to add this on to the end, he goes through a lot of the pseudoscientists, and just as it's slightly off topic but relevant to the time that we're in now, epidemiologists are pseudoscientists. Just in case you're getting quoted epidemiological studies, which a lot of people are at the moment in the news, I mention why. That's pseudoscience. Just apply the stuff we talk about here in scientific vernacular to any other field. In that particular instance, it's specifically mentioned on the science presentations. Anyway, get off my high horse, I should say. Right. Who have we got? Al-Baruni. Ed, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you have anything to add on Coriolis said?
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
we
For yours. Unless
What you just said
Go ahead.
is one of the most insanely idiotic things
We're not going to listen to you play taped messages in here. We want to hear from you. So
Yeah, bitch.
So I put
Come
you on
on.
mute.
Come on, Ed. We Dutchmen can actually memorize texts. Come on, man.
Letting Arwen down, man.
Nathan, you
Let's
want to
just
try? You want to try him again? I got a quick trigger finger. If he does it again, he's gone. I'll give him one more chance.
Don't play any more from whoever it was, Billy Madison.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the question?
Anything to? Well, there isn't really one. It's just any comments on the Coriolis presentation that we've just done.
Ah, well, it's all wrong. A straw man and Coriolis is real.
Wow.
Okay.
Wait. What's the straw? What's the straw man this time?
No,
Everything you said.
Huh?
Everything you said.
Everything. Everything's a straw man. It's an
Like
excellent.
what?
This is starting to sound like a
Why
Brenda
don't you
entrance
explain
here.
what Coriolis is then, Ed?
Hold on. Let him speak.
Let him speak. Him and Chocolate, please.
What's the straw man?
Every claim you made.
Name one
Which
claim we
would
made.
that be?
Oh, I'm sorry, Chocolate.
No, no, go ahead, man. It's your show.
He said every claim we make. Could we have an example? Just give us one example, because every is a generalized, sweeping, ipsy-dixit, baseless, bare assertion fallacy on its face. Now, if you give us an example of one, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Come on, Ed. You can do
Right.
it.
Like there's no drift. Thing you showed from Simon. It's a good joke.
So there
Made
is
about
drift.
that.
So there is drift.
Wait. The thing we showed from Simon Dan, you mean Simon Dan's thing is a joke?
No, the thing you said about it is.
I think I heard
What was said about
Arwen,
it?
hold on. Let Chocolate do it.
What was said about it that was a joke?
Oh, so no drift then. Ha 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 ha.
Oh.
Laughing.
So what's the joke about that? That there is drift or that there's no drift?
That you don't understand.
Did you hear the question? What's the joke about it? That there is drift or that there's no
The
drift?
joke is that you don't understand Coriolis.
Yeah? Are you supposed to have any drift in your narrative, Ed?
That depends.
That quiet.
I said it.
Oh, it depends. Oh, it depends. So you're supposed to have drift then.
Well, that depends again.
It depends on what?
Well, since you are making all these claims about it, why don't you tell me?
Oh, I don't have any claims of drift.
Show your knowledge. Because
I don't
you're
have any
laughing
claims
all
of
the
drift, my
time.
friend. Yeah.
Right. So you know nothing about it, yet you're laughing. That's cute.
I'm asking you what your claim is, Ed. Do you have drift or not?
My claim is that none of you understand what Coriolis is.
Okay, so we're waiting for you to explain it to us. Do you have drift in your narrative or not?
You want me to school you? Come on, you've been doing this
Yes,
for 5
please.
years.
I would love you to. Please,
Right, so
go
if
for it.
you do this for 5 years and you don't know what Coriolis is.
So
That's
your only argument is to
strange.
say that we don't understand. That's it? That's all you got?
Obviously, you don't understand.
So please explain it to us. Because I'm very confused as to whose reference frames are being ruined. Since
Yeah,
you
so
came and said that the
you
joke
know
that
what's
we
funny?
showed from Simon Dan, excuse me, Ed, sorry.
Right.
I'm trying to establish, do you have reference frames or not? Do you believe like Simon Dan? Do you believe in
I
the
already
drift?
said, yeah, so I already said.
You
it
haven't
depends
said
on the
anything, Ed. You haven't
situation.
answered one question.
No, I said it depends on the situation.
What situation would cause a drift?
Well, since you are laughing so hard about it, why don't you
You see,
tell me?
again, you're not answering the question, Ed. See how you dodge all the time? You do this every
So-
day. I don't know why you think today is different.
Yeah, because you're all laughing experts, quote unquote experts.
Okay, do you hear me laughing right now, Ed? Do you hear me
No,
laughing?
not anymore.
Yeah, I'm asking
No,
you
not
a serious
anymore.
question. That's why.
All
So,
right,
do
it's
you
not funny
have
anymore when I'm challenging
Ed?
your knowledge? Is
Ed,
it?
Ed, I would like to know if in your narrative of your spinning ball Earth, do you have a drift or not?
I said like 3 times. It depends on the situation.
And I
So
asked
why
you
don't
3
tell me
times
in this case
what
first?
situation would cause that drift. Ed, why can't you answer the question? This is supposed to be your narrative, bro.
Why
Seems
aren't
you
you
stepped up to
laughing at me?
protect Simon Dan. So because I'm having a serious conversation with you, bro. I'm trying to anyway. What's going on? You're not answering
Yeah,
anything. All you're doing is
interesting
dodging,
that
Ed.
you're right. So you should be laughing.
Right.
That's your knowledge, isn't it?
Jesus, man. Arwen, talk to your boy, bro, because this is ridiculous.
Wait, you're talking about Are you actually trying to take grasp of my prediction of where the globe narrative would go with these
Oh my
split up
God.
situations, like selective Coriolis drift? Is that what you're trying to say that you believe in? Some things
It's
apply
been
to
5
Coriolis drift,
minutes,
others
and
don't.
he hasn't.
No, I'm trying
5
to
minutes, and he
demonstrate that you
can't. He
don't know
can't
what you're talking
establish.
about.
He can't establish whether or not he has drift in his narrative or not.
Oh, I
Yeah,
already said it
but hey,
depends on the
Ed, we
situation.
don't know how to establish what we're talking about if you don't actually express anything about what that is. That
Oh,
we're
it's Coriolis. And you're
Yeah, that's
demonstrating
very
you
nice,
don't
you
know
know.
anything about it.
So what should we know about it?
That's cute.
Yeah, it is. Because you're claiming we don't know something, so why don't you share with us what we don't know then?
Coriolis and what it is.
I
So
rest
what
my
is it?
claim.
You don't have a case because you don't know anything about it.
Not our case to have, though, is it, Ed? Yours.
No, you're trying to debunk it and make straw man around.
Bunk your case, yeah. Bunk it. That's right.
No, you're trying to debunk your own straw man, just like with Al Baruni and such. It's
We make
quite
no
funny.
claims. No, we make no claims to drift. So, the reason I've stepped in, Ed, because you've said no, it is Coriolis effect. Well, Coriolis effect is an effect that happens when you turn underneath stuff in a non-inertial spinning reference frame, a second reference frame. And Dan says you and your reference frames have been ruined. So, given that you think it is Coriolis effect, we're straw manning, I think you said. Well, if it's Coriolis, Dan says, quote, you and your reference frames are ruined, and they're yours. Coriolis, your claim of Coriolis, that's got reference frames, Ed, and Dan says they're ruined. So maybe you can explain that to us. They're not our reference frames, Ed. They're yours. You know, we're debunking them. You're
your
claiming
dumb
them.
straw man is ruined.
Yeah.
No,
We
your
heard
dumb
that bit.
straw man is ruined.
So you don't have any reference frames then?
He's claimed them, Marwin. He said it is Coriolis effect. That's 2 reference frames. He's saying we're straw manning Simon Dan. Made it clear it is Coriolis. That's 2 reference frames. And Dan says reference frames ruined. So, given that it's us debunking your claim of Coriolis, that's 2 reference frames. Dan says you and your reference frames that you use to claim Coriolis drift are ruined, Ed. I don't have any. He's debunking your claim that we have Coriolis, mate.
No, he's actually helping you debunk your own straw man again.
Our claim, Ed. 3rd time. No, our claim. Do you remember you said I'm debunking it? It's not my claim. I'm debunking it. If we had drift, then we'd have shortened flight times. And when I point that out, it seems Simon Dan has chosen to show me how we don't have drift. He's even gone so far as to point out that the reference frames you use to claim Coriolis are ruined, Ed.
No, this actually points out perfectly you don't have any understanding of Coriolis.
Explain it to me. Coriolis is 2 reference frames. And reference frames ruined according to Simon Dan. Maybe you can square that circle. He can't.
Yeah, so that's your straw man again.
You just
So
keep
you
saying
don't understand what
Okay,
Coriolis
that's when you know you're dealing with a fraud. Usually when somebody says you don't understand, it's followed by an explanation. You've said it already 5 times and haven't followed up with one single explanation.
No,
You're a
because when I
fraud,
ask,
buddy.
no, I can explain.
Follow up by explanation. Shut your mouth or
No.
follow up by explanation. Go.
Whenever I ask Nathan
Fraud.
flat Earth, he
Fraud.
actually gets
Explain
mad
yourself.
and
Fraud.
tells me it's not his job to school me. So why the hell should I explain anything to him other than he doesn't understand?
Google it already, man.
Okay, we're done with Ed. Yeah. The problem Ed's got is he's saying it is Coriolis, and that needs reference frames for his claim on the globe side. And Dan says that reference frames are ruined, and we don't have any to be ruined. And he can't square that circle. So it's straw man, straw man, straw man. You don't understand. That's all we're going to get from Ed. So not very good. Who's last person on the list?
Hey, Adriel. Yep.
Adriel. Chris. Going once, going twice. Did anybody else join?
No.
In that case, any final thoughts from? We'll start with Arwin.
Yeah, it's been a good show. I got a little dizzy halfway from all the Coriolis mind experiments, because if you try to imagine yourself spinning in relation to another reference frame and realizing at the same time that you're going to be the one subjected to forces, not the thing you're looking at, that is the Coriolis effect. Yeah, eventually you start to kind of get psychosomatically a little bit dizzy and sick. So, but other than that, very clear cut, and yeah, with Ed kind of amusing as well. So keep it going.
Plug your show.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. ARWIJN channel. I do a daily show, the Flat Earth Early Bird Show, 2 p.m. Amsterdam time every day, right before the hour before the Flat Earth debates, but also in the weekends live. And yeah, hope to see you there. I interact a lot with the chat, open for questions. Thank you for having me.
On the Arwin channel. What's saying?
Sorry?
No, great presentation, QE. I mean, this is Coriolis. This has been a wrap for a while. We're only doing this silliness because of Dan and his crappy arguments that he apparently destroys himself. And yeah, it's fun to put on display how ridiculous this conversation or this argument is. So much so that they'll come in like Ed just did and absolutely say nothing. Just say straw man, you don't understand. Yeah, it's because we do understand. Ed, the Globers like Ed. Yeah, we get it. Right? This is double speak for you guys. Because it's already double speak. So you have no choice but to argue it in double speak. So we get it. But we get it better than you guys. Right? So it's done. Your reference frames have been ruined. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. Thanks, Huey.
Oh.
Honorary Ballbuster, Neil, have anything you wanted to add? No, clearly not. Adam, you there?
Yes, mate, yeah. We just echo what said, really, other than listening to Ed there. Maybe just give him a little bit of heads up on all the philosophy, so he's sure. So things that are not subject to Coriolis force are aeroplanes, drones, helicopters, and balloons. Things that are splits, gyroscopes, pendulums, and of course footballs. Hope that helps.
Or in summary, anything not attached in their rhetoric. You want to plug anything?
All those things, but just in an odd position to take, especially as Dan. Those two reference frames that appear to behave differently on different objects. Ruined. Thanks, Dan.
Perfect. Any plug you want to make, Adam, or anything?
Shout out to Iron Realm. Obviously, Fridays, 10 o'clock-ish now. Of course, Ironworks on. FR and YouTube at 10:30 UK time in the morning. You're all over that. Just
I'll do that again just because your mic's not that clear. So that's
I'm
Iron
all right.
Media, Be Here or Be Sphere. And me, I'll plug me. I'm Locally 1980 channel. But more importantly, Be Here or Be Sphere for brand new Uncurtain After Show, which is going out on my second channel. That's going out right now. So as soon as this stream ends, head over there. I've spammed the live chat feed with a link to that show. So I'll see you in the Uncurtain After Show live chat. Thank you very much, Quantum Eraser. Absolutely epic as always. Big shout out to Simon Dan. Thank you very much for debunking Earth Turn, Simon Dan. No drift. You and your reference frames have been ruined. Love it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Baltards. No spin. Flat Earth wins.